I am Justina Okechukwu here in Nairobi, and we have come to the end of the second day of the annual meetings of the AFDB group. Let me bring you up to speed on some of the most important conversations that were held here today. A number of side events were ongoing, but the discussions on climate justice and security in Africa focused on the critical link between climate change and security, outlining the need for accelerated actions. Let's talk about debt and development. Finance for Africa. Various experts discussed what type of tools that could be deployed for sustainable debt management and innovative financing solutions to support long-term development.
There has been a lot of reliance on the public sector to collect the much needed capital for climate finance. But I think imperatively, we need to sort of like divest these capital structures more to the private sector and the capital markets at large. You do reckon, as you rightly say, that the private sector has really struggled.
Another key discussed today was on how to unlock a just and equitable energy transition across Africa. The African Development Bank highlights the necessary reforms to ensure a fair transition to a low-carbon economy, ensuring no one is left behind while allowing the inflow of finance to where it is most needed.
Climate finance for most private sector investors is not cheap. The premium that is put on it because of the risk makes it very difficult to access. And so to demonstrate that this is possible, we have established what we call the climate action window that says, look, we want finances to go to where is needed the most. So this climate action window is part of our Africa Development Fund's replenishment. We've carved a window out of it. It's not much, has $429 million in it. 75% of that will go to adaptation, 15% of that will go to mitigation, and 10% will go to capacity building, because these are the things we've seen we need on the continent, not just for government, but even for the private sector.
Now back into the economics and finance. The high-level meeting on financial institutions focused on strengthening regulation and the architecture needed for Africa's transformation. The session sets out the role of international cooperation in attracting best practices to further Africa's development.
The UN Secretary General has called for $500 billion to be made available to accelerate the progress of SDGs. It is also reported that Africa needs $194 billion annually to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, while an estimated $277 billion per year is required to meet Africa's climate goals. But fancy this. Meanwhile, Africa accounts for only $30 billion or 2.5% of global climate finance in 2020-2021. Clearly, the existing financial gap cannot be met with the current global financial architecture.
Frontier Africa Reports will continue to follow these and other discussions through our daily reporting. Remember, tomorrow, Wednesday, is the formal opening formalities of the summit, and we expect heads of state and governments, as well as the release of the latest AFDB African Economic Outlook. You can also follow all this and more via the daily updates and interviews of the annual meetings. Visit www.frontierafricareports.com and follow all our social media platforms. Reporting for Frontier Africa Reports, I am Justina Okechukwu here in Nairobi, Kenya.